Welcome to the Familywood Podcast. My name is Ross. As you know, I am thrilled to have this week's guest, Rob DeClark. Many of you will probably know him. I normally like to start off the podcast, as you know, with just a bit of an introduction from our guest and let us know who you are. So, Rob, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a lot of value to add to the conversation, so I'm really grateful that you're here. Why don't you start out by talking a little bit about your background, who you are, where you've gone, and where are you now?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's quite exciting. Speaking to you over the last few months and learning what you're doing, and it's an honor to be on the on the podcast with you. So I quite appreciate that. My background has to start in 1998 when I got into recovery. So my joke is I checked into rehab in 1998 and I never left. So I got clean in a government-funded center after spending it was my third treatment stay. And there was a recovery house there. So a 30-day program, and you could live there for up to a year. So I was there for like 6 months, and the graveyard worker didn't show up one night, and they called me and said, could you sit in the chair? Basically, don't do anything. If anybody tries to leave, call us. And that was my first shift in inpatient. And I've worked in the field ever since. So ended up working there, ended up being a support worker, admissions worker, doing all the jobs all the way up. I mowed the lawns. I did all that sort of stuff in a treatment center. I got my bachelor's degree there in Kamloops, and I went to Ottawa for a year and did my master's. And while I was there was a treatment center starting on the island, and one of my old contacts called me, and I ended up on Vancouver Island as part of the group that started Cedars at Cobble Hill. And
treatment center mecca of the world.
That's right. And so, there's now, I don't know how many beds here on the island, right? Certainly more per capita than probably anywhere else in North America for sure. That's why I ended up on the island. And so I live in Shawnigan Lake here, just north of Victoria. Was part of the group that started Cedars in 2006. Left there in 2017. Homewood Health hired me to start Homewood Ravensview as employee number 1 there, and the general manager with Homewood Ravensview, where I learned a lot about treating mental health and addiction, anxiety, depression, trauma, and addiction sort of concurrently. That was a great experience there. And then left in 2023 to start the Healing Institute. And sort of got that one up and running for 3 years. That was, again, back to probably sort of more grassroots, starting a treatment center. And then
overnight stays there.
Yeah, lots of blood, sweat, and tears in that one, working, living on a small house on the other side of the property, but living at the treatment center for a year. So there was, left there recently, about 6 months ago. And, I was at a point in my career where I wanted to do something different, and had an inpatient facility in my life for a long time. Right. And that's, sort of where I joined, home-based recovery, and this idea that we were going to make treatment more accessible for people.
Man, it's certainly more accessible, as you know, and for the audience. I'm a big fan of the home-based recovery model. Tell us a little bit about home-based recovery. Who are the partners that you're working with, and what's the market you're kind of going after with your program?
Yeah, certainly quite honored and love working with the 3 partners of home-based recovery. Michael Walsh, who's hopefully Michael doesn't watch this, one of the oldest recovery coaches in Canada. He was one of the pioneers of bringing recovery coaching, up to the forefront where it is today, right? It was not really a thing when Michael sort of started. And so it's been excellent working with him. Dr. Michael Berry, psychologist, who was my clinical director at Homewood Ravensview. So we are kind of quite excited to be back working with him as the clinical supervisor. Ewan Kirkcaldy, who I have worked with all along the way in almost every one of the centers that I talked about. And Ewan and I have known each other forever. And so those are the 3 partners, right, sort of with myself. So the 4 of us all really understand what it is to be a team and work together. And I think any organization It's almost, you should start talking about like the culture of that, because it trickles down, right? And we're into doing the right thing for the client, not the quick buck. And so that has sort of driven everything we've done. So home-based recovery is really about trying to take my experience in inpatient and our experience of all of us in inpatient treatment and making it accessible to people at home, right? So there's a portal that you line in, right? You sign in for. It's got your morning meditation, your lecture, your exercise, your journaling, right? Your written work, your assignments. It's got all the things that you do in inpatient treatment, right? The schedule is such that you can do it. You're flexible. You could do your morning meditation and a video in the morning. And then if you want to run in the morning, you could do it then, or you could run in the afternoon rather than the 2 o'clock gym time or whatever that you would, right? So you get flexibility, but you have to hit these things and you got to build a routine, right? You have to build, we know that about early recovery. It's more about stabilization and routine building than it is about deep processing of, a lot of stuff. So you sign in and do that. And then it's the coaching and sessions that you get.
There's a lot of them, right?
There's a lot. So we do one a day for the first 10 days and one every other day for the next 20. So it's a 30-day or 30 module program. And that's a lot of support, right? If I could, the number one complaint in inpatient that I received, as a manager is
Not enough one-on-one time.
didn't see my counselor, right? This wasn't individualized enough for me. Didn't get to see my counselor enough. And so we really get to do that, right? We really get to spend time, build rapport, and really coach and support people as they go through the program. So you can get attached with a therapist, an RCC, or a recovery coach. So we have sort of two different sort of streams that people can go through. So there's a less intensive one where people get an individual session every 5 days. So they get 6 sessions. And there's some, it's really important to discuss criteria for who's appropriate for this program. There'll always be people that need inpatient, and they should go there. And that is very, there's always going to be people that need medical detox, that can't get sober at home. They don't have a safe place to do this work in, right? Our clients, when we choose them wisely, they do quite well. And we're integrating the skills as we go. They're at home, they're going to work, they're dealing with their families, they're integrating all of those skills. But it's important even in terms of who should do the 20 sessions in 30 days and who should do the 6 sessions in 30 days. There's a high level of motivation. Like you got to have a lot of motivation to do the 6, right? And this one where you get 20, we're coaching in there and tons of accountability and all of that. Yeah, that's there is a 6-month aftercare group, relapse prevention group that we do, where it's a 90-minute group once a week. So you get that also. 45 minutes or so attached to like relapse prevention skills where we're presenting, and then a 45-minute check-in. We have other things we do with families and other things we do, right, as well. We can expand on some of the adjunct stuff that we do, but that's the main part of the program.
When you first talked to me about your program, I was really excited that you're able to support individuals who are not so acute. And we all know those people. They're drinking a little bit too much, or they're partying a little bit too much. Like I almost want to label them the functioning alcoholics or the functioning partiers. They're still going to work for the most part. Their relationships are challenged but intact. And they're not necessarily needing that full inpatient experience. Like certainly not some of the 5-month programs necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're also more acute than needing just a once a week counseling session.
Yes. Yeah.
You're in that sweet spot. You're serving a big sweet spot there of people with needs. I really applaud home-based recovery for what it's done and how it's supporting.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. I appreciate that for sure. I mean, it's our ideal client certainly has a certain amount. We use the term recovery capital, right? That has been used, more and more here in the last 10 years. But they need a safe place to do it. Need a good internet access and a computer. And there's some basic right in that conversation. But absolutely, not everybody needs to go away and do inpatient treatment. And let's be honest, not everybody can, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the financial accessibility a bit.
Yeah. So when there is that, again, first thing is to assess whether or not it's an appropriate person for us. I mean, medical detox, those types, all the things, again, mental health challenges, not being stable enough, etc. Then we would refer out to, some other service. Second thing is to talk about, the financial suitability. So, our program would be the lesser intensive one, kind of 3,000 to 75, 77, like it's right in that right sort of number, right? We'd be between $7,000 and $3,000, uh, compared to, 30 plus, right? Let's just say that's an industry standard. It's, that's the low end would be, right? And so certainly more financially accessible. We also have, I was on a conversation this morning with somebody who is a mother of four, who again has been drinking a little bit too much post COVID, and probably, and when the kids get to bed it's just been slowly increasing and is drinking too much. She's a single mother of four. How does she go to inpatient treatment, right? And so, the accessibility sometimes is key for people that can't otherwise just leave, right? And there's
You said that, and I queued. I think it was a post from you, actually. It was a post from Home Based Recovery back in September, that 66% of mothers face barriers to treatment.
Yeah.
We know that the childcare is an accessibility barrier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. More accessible financially, more accessible from just, being able to stay home. And again, for the right client that can integrate all of that into their lives, figure out how do you work recovery into your life when you're a single mother of four? Like, that's an important conversation to have, right? Because you're going to have to figure that out. So certainly, there is that group of people that need more than the individual counseling session once a week, right? They need more accountability. They need more treatment. They need more information.
Or even like an IOP, an intensive outpatient program, where it's like a group session once a day.
Yeah.
There's a person for that too, right? Like, yeah.
There absolutely is. But if you do that, then you have to show up there between 10 and noon every day, or 3 or 4 days a week or whatever. And so you got to take time off work, and I can't do that. Right. And so the flexibility, and it's a lot of work for us. I'll say that, like, with everybody's schedule, trying to match with our counselors and our coaches.
Yeah.
And, they want to do it's, so we got coaches from, different time zones and all. Like it can be a challenge to truly individualize treatment
It's hard.
is really hard. It's easy to,
That's why it's not, so prolific.
yeah, it's easy to slap it on a website, and lots of us do, but to really individualize treatment is a ton of work. It's a ton of work. So yeah, we got to do a lot of background work with our clients to make sure that we're meeting their needs individually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us, Rob, tell us about your family program and how Familywood is helping to support you.
Yeah. So we do a family program of 17 modules with 6 counseling sessions. We talk about family in general, right? We need to engage families in this process. In fact, I would say our program would be, it's even more important because the client's not going away, right? So the client's staying home, because one of the things that happens when the client goes away to treatment is the family gets a break. Right. And the family gets, I can't tell you how many times I've called and said, the best thing about this is
I will say, not all spouses would agree with that.
True.
That statement of getting a break. They sometimes report carrying a bigger load with a heap of resentment too, especially when they hear about their loved ones' massages and
Yes, we're at the pool today and we did a nice hike. And yeah. Yeah. They get a break from their active codependent being in the house with them, right? So I would say that
They get to sleep.
they get a break from having that person in their life every day when they go away. We have to deal with it live, so we really need the families to be engaged, right? Because we're sort of dealing with everything in that moment. We certainly talk with families early. We try to engage families right in the family program. And that's where we started to talk and started to have conversation about the excellent work that you're doing with Familywood and how you really specialize in that aspect, because it's a different specialization. It really is. Families can be a challenge to get engaged, right? They want you to fix the person. They don't necessarily want to do the work themselves. And it's a special type of motivation and conversation that you need to have with them. And so, yeah, we've certainly talked and kind of going to work with you and sort of partner with Familywood in terms of having your expertise be lent to our clients, which is going to be fantastic.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, we're certainly excited to support your clients' families, and the research is so clear on it.
Absolutely.
When the families get support, the individual entering recovery has better odds of staying in sustainable recovery. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the system.
Especially true. I really appreciate your call out to the importance of family support for your program, because the individual is still living at home with that family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the frequent reports of families is discomfort even around new behaviors. They haven't seen their loved one process emotions. So
Yeah.
they have a really hard time with them. And oftentimes these houses struggle to express emotions. All of a sudden, emotions are part of the conversation, and it's really difficult. That same kind of fix it mentality starts to come into play. Heaven forbid my loved one with addiction starts to feel shame and guilt and express that shame and guilt. And now I need to stop that because I can't have my person in distress, right? Like, just as a small example. It's so
Absolutely. Even the dynamic of going out to a meeting or going out and then coming back, and
and the smell check when they get home.
the smell check.
Yeah.
We're working with the client who's deeply offended that they're being smell checked. And it's like, well, you have lied for a considerable amount of time about that. And the family member who is triggered. And so if we can be doing parallel work, right, and be working together with people and really do that, that's where the whole system changes. If the system doesn't change, and I know you know this better than anybody, right? The person comes back all chipper and right, and that sort of angry, resentful, mistrusting, family is there waiting for you. Be a challenge.
Certainly is. We talk about the sniff test every time they come home. I also think about how many spouses and parents want to bring breathalyzers into the house. Yeah, I deal with that one a lot, actually. Yeah, that's a fairly common report from a family member,
Yeah.
particularly when there's
Mm-hmm.
or they think their kids are unsafe. When there's kids involved, that's a very common
Yeah.
practice.
And sometimes, appropriately so, right? They want to make sure that the kids are safe. And how do we do that? And we've recently added the ability to do, like, we'll send a sober link to people and they report to us, right? As part of the
So you're doing like randomized check-ins.
yeah. And it's trust but verify. I always use this line, right? We trust our clients greatly, but we want to verify that they're still actually sober. So we'll send that out. They get the report to us. And then, if there's anything that we need to address, obviously if there's a hot test or something that comes back, then, so that family member's not the
And you
one.
partnered with Life Labs for that, right?
So we can do in BC, we can make lab recs for Life Labs, and then SoberLink will send the device for alcohol. And it'll randomize, right, where you sort of blow once in the morning, blow once at night, sort of thing. And then I have a portal that we get emails if there's an issue. But we do, for some of the workplace, conversations, they require that. But then we've also started to transfer that over to some of the conversation that we're having about families that want to know, right, and want absolute assurance. We take that away from the family. We manage that, and then we'll let you know if there's anything, right? So they're not the one constantly running around with a breathalyzer.
Because there often is a boundary. If they use again, then we're leaving. Or if they, for a parent, if they use again, then they're kicked out of the house.
Yeah, yeah,
That's their boundary. That's where they're at.
yeah. And so if the family is the monitor, then I think we have some problems.
Want to change that kind of behavior, right?
Yeah, we want to shift that.
So what are you seeing from what kind of success trajectory are you seeing with your clients?
So first thing I was sort of be super clear. We need to improve our outcome data collection as an organization, right? So, we follow people through our recovery management groups, right? And we follow people through, some of like if they stay in, right? So we want to get into a more sort of regular pattern of actually collecting psychometrics and outcome data and being able to say more than just they completed the program and they've completed the 6 months, right? So I've been around this field for quite some time, as I told you. And I think historically, and not even that far back, where we just like, there was a lot of people at the barbecue. So they all must, I think we're successful, right? So as a field, we have gotten better in the last 5 years and having this conversation. And it's a high priority for HBR to improve our ability to answer this question. Our success rates in terms of completion and people that stay are quite high. They're in the 60 to 70% sort of range. These are people that complete and they complete the whole 7 months, right? That's high because of, so I'm going to again say, we choose our clients wisely, right? So we are choosing a client that is probably more likely to be able to integrate these skills and put these things together and maintain recovery. So, but are we, monitoring folks in terms of, kind of guaranteeing that they are sort of still, sober at that point? And can we talk about their quality of life improvements in a meaningful way? We can't do that right now, right? So the success rate question, I love it, because if somebody says to you, it's 68.4, how do you know that, right?
Well, this is a grander challenge in the industry with just keeping in touch with clients. Sure, a year or two, but it's the 5, 10, 20-year mark it's really hard. Although, like so I'm in recovery too, as you know, long-term recovery. I often think about why the center that I went to never reaches out for the success story. And I'm thinking like from a data perspective and from a marketing perspective. I feel like they would want to know what the long-term success rate is, because I think it's really high.
Yeah. It's challenging to keep people engaged, right? And collect the appropriate data for sure. And it's also, it's all self-report. Like there's inherent issues with producing outcome data that really the center probably, or the organization, needs to create its own little sort of department to manage this, right? Because it is
Alumni services almost, right?
yeah, it is that kind of work, right? I will speak of my time at Homewood. They have this they have the Homewood Research Institute, which is this sort of, connected but external board that would, do proper research and sort of produce proper outcome, surveys and those types of things. But that's a massive whole other whole other sort of enterprise. And most little businesses, right, we can't necessarily do that. So it's a lot more work than it sounds.
There's a business there for somebody who wants to take that up.
Yeah.
Outsourced analytics.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Because it's a lot of work. It's more work than it looks like.
It's a lot of work to do it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to be expensive to have the proper software and the proper statisticians actually looking at it. And it's one thing to bang out like a MailChimp survey. It's a whole other thing to.
Yeah. You can't use sort of survey monkey to do this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today, Rob. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we're thrilled to work with Home-Based Recovery. We're super stoked about what you're doing, and I just want to thank you for the effort that you're putting into serving such an unserved but important group of individuals.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me and for doing this. This is, time and work out of your day, and it's excellent. The conversations that you produce out of this, and it's important. I think it's something that's, having these conversations are really, really important in the field. And I think we're starting to have more and more of them together with organizations, opposed to sort of always competing with each other in this field. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this and having me
together, Rob.
We are 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, enjoy the day. And thanks so much for joining. Thanks to everyone for watching, and talk to you soon. Take care.